Let's get at her. It is another episode of the Mainly Broncos podcast, and we are, joined by two esteemed guests over there on Broncos Twitter, Broncos Edge, and of course everybody knows him by Mile High Mims. Goes by Bryce. First things first, guys. Thank you so much for hopping on. Obviously, you guys had done a show before, and now this is the first time we're doing a show. So, and I guess what better time to do it in the heart of an off season?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Thanks for having us on, I should say. Look, we already screwed up. We won't do live shows. I already talked over him, I apologize. But yeah, we appreciate it, man. It's no better way to kick off the offseason, in my opinion.
Yeah, I say the heart of the offseason. Well, we actually haven't.
It's combine week,
yeah, it's combine week. We actually, aren't even in free agency yet. I mean, we're less than 2 weeks of that in terms of free agency. Obviously, the scouting combine is going on. Scouting combine is actually going on right now. I actually have the scouting combine going on my my monitor over here. To just kind of, pun intended, monitor it. First things first, of course, for the people that are in the stream, make sure you hit the subscribe button for the MHRT Network page. We were pushing for 2,000 subscribers by the end of last year. We're going to see if we can do it again this year. There's also a join feature, which is basically like YouTube is doing these memberships now, where you can actually do memberships. There's a $2.99, a $6.99, and $12.99. Feel free to select whatever you guys feel like. And then there's also a YouTube channel for Mainly. There's a Mainly Broncos YouTube channel. Obviously, for anybody that follows on Instagram and stuff, and even TikTok, and of course, YouTube we're pretty famous at this point. For YouTube Shorts and everything, and so I'd say that's mostly where we're posting our hilarious YouTube Shorts and stuff like that. So it's gonna be a lot of fun, and and of course, we are fortunate to have Bryce and Edge joining us. So I guess first things first, how did you guys end up, putting together your show, and just, I guess, just meeting one another? I guess, that's probably the first and foremost question.
Yeah, I mean, when you're on Broncos Twitter, you get a little bit of everyone, and of course, Bryce's page stuck out for a variety of different reasons, right? But I think the biggest thing we connected on, because we are both from New Mexico, we both live here, and so that was something we were able to bond on really easily. And so me personally, I had been wanting to do any kind of podcast content for a while, right? It's something I'm interested in. I like to speak my mind. I like to hear other people's opinions and you know what I mean, just get different ideas. And so me and Bryce kind of talked about it here and there. It took a while for it to actually come to fruition, but we gave it a go. I liked what we did. I mean, for two guys who don't have any experience doing anything like that, we just rolled with it. You know what I mean? We found topics, we talked about it, and it was a good experience. But of course, life comes at you and you're busy, and so. But it was a great experience for me, and I appreciate going with Bryce, and hopefully do it again.
Yeah, I first heard about Edge on Instagram. I started seeing his graphics everywhere and everything, so I followed him. He somehow found me on Twitter. I shouldn't say somehow. He found me on Twitter. He hit me up. Yeah, he mentioned he was from New Mexico too. He started talking all this UNM shit to me. I said, hell no, go Aggies. But yeah, so we kind of bonded over that. I've been kind of looking more into also getting into a podcast. Tweeting after so long kind of gets tiring, It's just
for sure.
It's not the best place to voice your opinions.
Saves you from carpal tunnel.
Yeah, that's a good example, I would say, or a good excuse. Yeah, so we were discussing it for a little bit. We started in, I want to say, towards late off season.
Yeah, it was the very end. It was
towards the end because we were trying to plan for the upcoming season. We did record predictions. We did we were gonna try and do weekly reviews and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like you said, life kind of hit us both hard. So it was just kind of let's just take a break for it. Worst things worst, we can come back midway through the season or even by next year. And it's a shame that of all the seasons for us to miss,
I know, dude.
That
was myself too. I was
here,
dude.
Yeah.
but yeah, I didn't regret anything that we tried. We tried it out for being two beginners in the podcasting game. I thought we did pretty well, and
Yeah.
forward to getting back into it here pretty soon. Pretty soon, maybe we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess the other question is, one of the things that I always love to ask, Bronco fans, is how did they become, Bronco fans? And obviously you guys, said that, living in New Mexico, there isn't exactly a sports team, a professional sports team per se, down there in New Mexico. So how did you guys like discover the Broncos? And how did you know that like that was the team that I want to root for? You can go ahead and Bryce first.
So I'm actually not I wasn't born and raised in New Mexico. I've only lived here for like 10 years, I want to say. I was in a military family growing up. My dad was in the Navy.
Nice.
Originally born in San Diego. Born in San Diego. I lived in Virginia a little bit in my childhood. We moved back to California. All of my family lives in Sacramento, hence Sacramento Kings over there. The one Sacramento Kings fan you'll ever meet in your guys' lifetime, by the way. It's rough over here. But yeah, so like the story behind that, obviously I grew up watching the Broncos because my dad was a Broncos fan. He was a big John Elway fan. He watched him at Stanford. He watched him come into the NFL. He turned my mom into a Broncos fan. She was a 49ers fan. She was a Joe Montana lover and all that. But yeah, so I grew up with that. First game I remember ever watching, or at least remembering, was the Tim Tebow to Demaryius Thomas playoff game. So, that's kind of a great origin story to become a fan of a certain team, and never look back. That's when DT became my favorite player. And yeah, that's how I became a Denver fan, I would say.
That's awesome. What about you, Edge?
Yeah, it's similar. I was born and raised in Albuquerque, and it definitely was through my dad. I was basically brainwashed, but it wasn't like, he forced me to in a way. It just, naturally he's throwing me in, Bronco jerseys as a baby. And, I I vividly remember watching Tim Tebow at a very young age. So when they had the playoff game versus the Steelers, I mean, we had this giant party. And to see like my family and their reactions to Demaryius Thomas's game winner was like, wow, I think that's like the moment it finally like clicked. Like, man, this is pretty awesome. And it's funny because like when Tebow went to the Jets, dude, I was so sad. I literally made my dad buy me a Tim Tebow Jets jersey and everything. I was literally I don't know why. Like, I don't know why I love this man so much. Like, I don't even remember watching him in college, really, to be honest. But I mean, he took me and my little brothers to games. Often he was a season ticket holder for a little bit, and I absolutely love Demaryius Thomas. He was my first ever jersey. I got to meet him at the AFC Championship game in 2015. Him and Emmanuel Sanders. They both signed like a little cape I had, and I gave him a fist bump, and that was really like a marquee moment, in my childhood. And ever since then, it just has taken off. And of course, I played football. Bryce played football too, so that was obviously a big part of it. So very grateful. I mean, growing up my prime years, we weren't very good up until last year or 2 years ago, but it's been worth it. I'm emotionally invested way more than I probably should be, but what I mean? It dictates my week probably like it does a lot of other people, but it's, it's a good problem to admit.
We had to struggle through high school and pretty much all of middle school. Like, we were the bullied, we missed out on that. But
dude, like there's videos of people recording me at school after the Russell Wilson trade. And I'm just like, man, it's like, oh man.
I lost so many bets in high school. I don't even want to talk about it. But.
Yeah. It's funny. You guys are talking about the Tim Tebow draft pick, and, it's funny. That's actually like one of the very few times that I can think of where, regardless of how it worked out, like I love Tebow and I will always love Tebow.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that draft pick happened was like one of like the few times that I think I like fell to my knees, and it was just like, what just happened? Like we took Tim Tebow, and then we also took like Demaryius Thomas in that same year, and of course it's like the Josh McDaniels draft class. So You know, if
Oh,
there's
jeez.
anything that went wrong in the Josh McDaniels era, it was, he was drafting Demaryius Thomas, arguably the best wide receiver in Broncos history. So,
Mhm.
so yeah, so and also too, like I actually, Bryce, I have a Virginia connection too. Like for anybody that does not know, like I'm not from military, but like we moved to Virginia. My family and I, we moved to Virginia due to my parents' work, and then we came back here. So it's like it's to a certain degree the same, like because you came back to California, and then like because like I'm Colorado born and bred, but then we moved to Virginia, stayed there for like 7 years, and then
Eventually came back.
and basically came back for like my freshman year in high school. So
Nice.
yeah, so I think that's awesome. And like I said, I've always liked, I always like doing this when it comes to Bronco fans. Just get a chance to like, find out how they became fans and stuff. So all right, so kind of take us through the ride. Kind of take us through the ride of your emotions from what should have happened. Cough. Well,
Oh, no.
in 2025, but just kind of take us through the ride of this last season and frankly even the year before, because like the year before was like the appetizer for what this last season was, and I think that's one of the reasons why I like too, like would I have wanted to face Buffalo? Probably, ideally, not necessarily, but it felt like the best appetizer for where the Broncos were growth wise and as a team and franchise wise for them to face them, in the that second round or whatever. So really kind of take us through like your rides and highs and lows, if you will, for the 2024 season and 2025 season. We'll start with you, Edge.
Yeah, so I'll even go back all the way to when we drafted Bo Nix. I was on my knees praying for Brock Bowers at the time.
Probably not the only one.
Yeah, and I was fine with the Knicks. I was pushing for us to trade back and snag him, and if we did have to draft him at 12, I was fine with it. But this is happening multiple times, by the way, is where I'm like dying to draft a player, and then we draft someone else, and I look disappointed, but I'm really not. It's just kind of the emotions getting the best of me. But we drafted Bo, and I was like kind of iffy about it, whatever. I liked him, but I really liked Bowers, and that 2024 season, like emotionally, probably close to the best season I've experienced as a fan, watching every game, every snap. And, seeing the team after, 8-9 years of mediocrity, just finally be competitive, win games, have something to like really, really look for. You're not sitting there depressed by week 14 watching the games, you know what I mean? Or knowing they're not playing for anything. So, that was it was phenomenal. It was like a phenomenal year. And then going into 2025, and me and Bryce, we did, record predictions. We did all that, and we both had high expectations. And I will say, I'm a pessimist. Like, I really am. Like Bryce was like, I
noticed
understatement. That's an
if you look at my tweets,
yes,
I am a pessimist. I hate like thinking that the biggest, baddest thing is going to happen. And so I'm a big pessimist. I try to be better at it, but at the same time, I like to temper expectations. So I think I had us going like 11-6 and winning a playoff game.
Yep.
And it was a lot better.
So pessimistic.
Well, dude, some people expected the season we had, 13, 14 wins, like, you know what I mean? But no, the whole season as a whole, man, especially the Eagles game, I think is where it really was like, all right, like this is something, you know what I mean? And personally, my favorite game was the Packers game. I was watching it with my girlfriend, and man, I probably made the neighbors so mad. Like the screaming, the yelling, like it was just one of those games where it's like you're just so thankful for the season. Like I kept telling my friends, I'm like, man, I'm just so thankful for the season. I'm so thankful that we got to just stack wins. Even the Commanders game, like, man, we should have smacked those boys. But you know what?
Entertainment purpose, that was a great game.
Yeah, it's just a phenomenal year, best year of my life. I mean, I know I'm a youngin', but man, it's been a ride. Love Nick Bonito. That's what I'll say.
Fortnito.
Nick Fortnito.
It's an all-time nickname, but
what about you, Bryce?
Yeah, so like kind of what Ed was saying, going back to the draft, I was the exact same way. I was I wouldn't say pounding for Brock Bowers, but I was fully on board with Brock Bowers there. I was down to trade back for Knicks. I thought 12 was just a little high back then and whatnot. But I guess like, their thought process, like the quarterback's there. Like if you think that quarterback's truly gonna save your franchise, it's like don't overthink it, just take him, So I'm glad they did it because clearly that's worked out for us. Like last year was kind of like a fever dream to be that good right away with both, like especially considering the expectations going into that year. Because I remember they cut ways with a lot of veterans. They traded Judy, they cut Simmons.
Yep.
We were predicted 5.5 wins was like our over under, right? That's all I heard all off season. But like this team was never going to be that bad with Sean Payton at the helm. No matter who they threw at quarterback, they were never going to be that bad. Yeah. And then they made a run. Like, yeah, were they ahead of schedule? I wouldn't say so, but I can understand why people might think so. Like, they shouldn't. We kind of like what we complained about the Patriots this year. We kind of like a little softer schedule, whatnot. But we played the Bills first round, get our ass kicked. But it's kind of like a reality check.
Like welcome to the
we're a young team. Yeah, exactly. It's been 10 years. Like, I'm gonna be honest. Like, I wouldn't say I'm a pessimist like Edge, but I'm a realist. I knew damn well we were gonna go into Buffalo and win that game. Not right away. So again, even though they get like that fucking Franklin touchdown, dude, I was
gonna say, that Troy Franklin touchdown had us getting delusional, man.
Yeah. 2 minutes into the game, that was like one of our few opening drive or like immediate touchdowns.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know. I remember that. And then I clearly don't remember any of the rest of the game. Denver won that game and they clearly advanced. But yeah, so that was a fun experience. And then going into this year, like you said, like we were kind of recapping most of first of all, we had a great offseason.
Yeah.
I was in love with every move that they made. The draft was I was a little skeptical on and whatnot, and kind of proven right on that today. But like we'll get into that later. But yeah, like I was gonna say, like even like the realist fans, I don't think they could have predicted this good of a season.
Right.
Not to rally off 11 straight wins. First in the entire conference, one freak injury away from a Super Bowl appearance. They may not have won. Seattle deserves the respect. Seattle is a damn good team.
Yeah, but
just the opportunity to be there would have been cool. Bo deserved that moment. That's what really sucks. But I'm never going to take that season for granted. It's been so long since middle school years. Again, like I said, I was getting bullied all throughout high school from watching Kendall Hinton play fucking quarterback, over one game away from the Super Bowl, and it's just like, I'll never take that for granted. I had a blast this season. I'm really looking forward to how they expand on that this year.
Yeah, it's funny. Kendall Hinton, the quarterback, and Sean Payton was the head coach they're playing against. It's funny because it's like, part of me, and I really guess I never really said it on a stream, but it's like, but it's like, I almost feel like the injury with Bo, or just in general, like the way it ended was almost like best case scenario. Like, frankly, like long term, because like the amount of pressure that even Bo would have been under, like taking it to the Super Bowl and then winning, not winning, whatever, like that would have been exponentially high. Not that it's high now, but just like it would have been exponentially high. And also too, like the amount of quarterbacks, and we all know it, they like go into their second year and don't make the Super Bowl again. The amount of pressure that would have put on it. So part of me is almost like this almost kind of feels a little bit like the best case scenario, for probably what could have happened. It was brutal. Like it was absolutely brutal ending, and being at that Bills game in person, and frankly, the best Broncos game I will ever witness in person to date. For it to end that way, and, the hour ride that I was able to have, driving into my garage and then getting into these and falling to my knees after the largest high of my life. But no, I just thought I'm with you guys. Like it was a season that we do relish in, but I'm also one where it's like this kind of felt like a little bit of like the best case scenario of like the amount of like lowest of lows we would have had, probably after something like that would have been way worse, honestly, and the expectations would have been through the roof. I mean, obviously they're pretty rough now, but like they would have been even through the roof had that happened.
I think if there's one thing Bo has proven is like he doesn't mind pressure. I think he was ready for that moment. Again, not saying they would have gone in and won that game, but I truly believe, like, I think it would have been a more competitive game. Obviously, bias, no bias. I just truly think Denver was a better team. But like I definitely wouldn't say best case scenario. That's a weird way to put it.
Right.
But I do understand what you mean. Like, kind of like, okay, how do we build on this again? You can only go. You're kind of looking at it as like you can only go up, which is not true. But that's how positive I like to see it. Like one more year to build off of it. Like the whole team is angry that they didn't make it there. Bo's going to be back and ready to go week 1, and yeah, I'm looking forward to
it. Relative to the season, I gotta ask you guys the tough question to answer. What was the game of the year? Was it that New York Giants fourth quarter, or was it that Buffalo Bills game?
I'd say the boring answer is the Bills game, just because of the atmosphere. It's an AFC divisional game. You just lost to Buffalo last year. You're playing against Josh Allen. You're at home.
Yeah.
I mean, I mentioned the Eagles game. I thought that was the game, and even Sean Payton mentions that game a lot, like about how it was kind of like the game where it was like, all right, maybe we can really do this. For me, it is still part of the Bills game. I know it's like such a boring answer. The Giants game, reason why I wouldn't say it's a game of the year is because literally the first 3.5 quarters, I was sitting there boiling hot.
Dude,
like, are you serious?
God.
We did all this beef on Twitter.
I was gonna say I talked so much shit on Twitter, bro. I was getting flamed.
That's what I'm saying. Is like we had all this beef on Twitter, players involved, and we're getting smacked at home. Like it was so. That's why I wouldn't.
On DT Tribute Day,
Yeah.
Yeah, that was. I talked so much shit that day because it was Cooper said that comment about Jackson Dart, and Giants fans took it out of context.
Yeah.
Nick put out the tweet calling them delusional, and then obviously I'm gonna back my guy, and I was like, that was the one game I had confidence in. Never again. I will never talk shit on Twitter again. That was the scariest fucking 3 quarters of my fucking life. To this day, I still can't believe they fucking pulled that off. That was the craziest quarter I've ever witnessed.
Yeah, I will say my little brother, he's a Giants fan, and my dad took him that game, first ever game, and he came back home. Like, he's giving me that side eye.
Never going again.
Yeah, you say something to me, I swear.
So you guys were at the game?
No, my little brother was with my dad.
Okay.
So they went because it was near his birthday, and he's a Giants fan. He grew up watching Odell, and so he came home, and he was like, "Yo, if you say a word to me about this game, I swear." I was like, "Hey, all right."
That was an all-timer, but I'm with Edge. I would definitely still say the Bills game, not just because of the atmosphere, but because it was genuinely a fun-ass game to watch.
I will say I was at both, and so is one where it's like the ride of like where we were sitting, like the ride of where we were sitting, which was we were sitting in section 135, and then having it like a few rows up was like the was this Giants fan. And you know how New Yorkers are, and just talking so much crap and and everything. And so to go from like all the ride of like the 19 and 8 and just them shutting us out at that point through 3 quarters, and then him being his petty New Yorker self, once they scored the fluky Torrey Franklin touchdown of the golf clap and everything, but then to see like his countenance just start going down.
Sanity's just
like
crumbling.
Just like all throughout that 4th quarter is something I will never forget. But I will say though that has to be one of the loudest 4th quarters. It's between that and the Bills game of like just the overall like loudest games I think I've ever been to, and
Mm-hmm.
those are clearly the 2 best games I've ever been to as a Bronco fan. But yeah, and I do think that they will definitely be building off it, and I guess first things first. As we're diving into it, we would be remiss if we didn't talk about some of those news and notes, if you will. That kind of happened even around the scouting combine, and even stuff that. And granted, we talked about it last week on our show and everything, but I would love to hear your guys' take. Of everybody's opinion in terms of the Davis Webb promotion staying on, him being the offensive coordinator, and obviously Vance Joseph's thing. We haven't actually had a chance to talk probably in detail, about Vance Joseph staying, and just some of the hires, frankly, that the Broncos have made, and of course, we'll get to some of the news that happened today, of course, with some of the tenders and not tendering players, if you will.
I'll let Edge go first on that. I feel like I'm going to ramble a little bit.
Nah, I mean, obviously we kind of had an idea this was like a real possibility. I was really 50-50 on it. I know some people were like 100%, oh, Sean's not giving up plays, and there was people who were like, oh, Davis Webb is calling plays. I have no issue with it. I think Sean Payton has proven to us again and again and again, like, you got to trust him. You got to trust his process, his judgment. And Davis Webb, for him to think that highly of him, to literally fire Joe Lombardi and to promote him like that is saying something to me. Yes, is saying something to me. A guy who's been calling plays for 18 years to do that, it speaks very highly of Webb. And like I mentioned before, my only concern is, and it really shouldn't be, you could be looking this far into the, Broncos season, but what happens if, he is getting head coaching jobs next year? So what happens at the offensive coordinator spot for Denver at that point? And that's my biggest question. There's all kinds of different scenarios that could play out, a bunch of hypotheticals. But in terms of just this year, I do think that having a young offensive mind helping out the run game, cut down the screens and the check downs, and become a more versatile offense is something that I think he's going to bring to the table. Obviously, him and Bo have a great relationship. I'm excited for it, but I do have obviously my questions. I think like anybody would, post 2026. So we'll see.
It's such a big change when you're one win away from the Super Bowl, So I understand people's like uncertainties with it. I personally was all for it. That maybe that's the casual in me. Like Sean Payton, this Hall of Fame coach, he's called plays his entire career. He's won a Super Bowl off of it. Again, one win away from the Super Bowl, even with all that inconsistencies, I would say. But yeah, I liked it because Edge kind of hit on it. I think it's like these less like conservative plays. It'll be a little more up tempo, which Bo likes. Obviously, Davis is in the room with Bo every single day, right? So he knows a little bit like what's in Bo's mind compared to Sean. Right. But yeah, and then like that's probably my only concern is if he's like insanely good this year, what happens to him? Does he get hired? Like is this like a Ben Johnson situation where we lose like a all-time coordinator and then we just like pivot back to Peyton or something? Right. But I don't think they would have fired their offensive coordinator after a 14-win season if they didn't have a plan, Yeah. Regardless of what happens this year, if he stinks, Payton will take it back. That's simple, right? Yeah. Whatever happens with Webb after that, I don't know. I'd rather not think about it because I don't think he's going to be back. Yeah. But I do strongly believe that they have a plan intact, and I'm not too worried about it. I, for one, am very excited to see the more like kind of modern side of like play calling. Like no offense to Sean Payton, I get it. Like some people adore that dude. So do I. But how many times this season were we like screaming at our TVs because of how bad the offense was, Yeah.
Well, and I at the end of the day, it's win-win because like, and that's why I don't understand any of the people's logic when they say it's win-lose or lose-lose, if you will. It's win-win. Sean Payton can take it back. He can take it back whenever he wants to. It also allows him. He's already a CEO type coach, right? So it's one where, like, you know, this allows him to really kind of, for all intents and purposes, be a good enough micromanager that he needs to be.
Mhm.
Where he can just kind of oversee and make sure that all the different areas of is working appropriately, because, like, we know he's a madman, so it allows him that, and you're going to afford Davis Webb to continue his relationship with Bo. And then the other side of it too is, like, let's just say he leaves, you're also making it so that it's an attractive job, so that everything that you're affording it to, be with Davis Webb, you can definitely take it back, but you're also allowing yourself to now have created a little bit more of an attractive environment for an offensive coordinator, to come in. And yeah, it's a new coordinator, but it's one where, he can come in and, be able to work with Bo. And then maybe at that point, depending on who you hire, is he an attractive candidate? Maybe at that point you have him maybe with a couple more years, and, et cetera. And then, of course, there is the other, elephant in the room angle, which is the head coach in waiting, or, what's going to end up happening in 2027, or, just the fact that he is just 30 years old. And, I made the point on, Twitter, I believe it was like last night, or, like, a couple days ago. And it's like, I have to remind myself that there were 10 jobs, like 10 head coaching jobs in this cycle. And that doesn't even count, like, the offensive coordinator jobs, right? Like, because we know head coaches get hired and they want their staff.
Mhm.
And Davis Webb just decided not to be the offensive coordinator. Granted, he wasn't probably going to be calling plays anyway, but he decided not to be the offensive coordinator for Josh Allen, MVP Josh Allen, in Buffalo, a team he's even played for. He also chose not to be the offensive coordinator with the New York Giants, a team he played for under John Harbaugh. Quite a tempting situation.
Mhm.
And then he decides not to take the one with Baltimore, another attractive, situation for him to work under MVP, Lamar Jackson. So,
Mhm.
like, and there's no guarantee that those kind of jobs, those attractive jobs, are going to be out there on the market in 2027. I would say that the Jets job, frankly, is going to be unattractive probably at this point, except for the fact of the 2 first-round picks and, the relationship of the front office and everything. But I just think that it's hard to predict whether or not he will be available, because, I would assume Davis probably wants to also go to a bit of a stable organization, and so the fact he did pull out from the Raiders job, and also stay, really, it might say a little bit that maybe he might still be a head coach in, this next year, but also I would not rule out him being a head coach in maybe a couple years,
Mhm.
because he is only 30 years old.
Mhm.
Yeah,
This will
I
be his
mean,
first time calling plays.
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, yeah, he's only been a coach for like what, 3 years.
Yeah.
yeah. It's to me, like, we've kind of, picked at the idea that, like, well, what if there's this, like, hypothetical that, Sean is planning on stepping down at some point, right? And, like, to me, that is super, super, like, that's some groundbreaking news. That would be shocking to me.
Yeah.
And, being the pessimist that I am, and I just got to keep it real, like, let's say, Webb is phenomenal. Denver wins 12, 13 games next year, make it however far in the playoffs, right? Head coaching openings, they want him, whatever he leaves. You're now in a situation where you're right, Cam, like, Denver is a very, very attractive spot offensively. But, I mean, look what happened in Philly. Like, you would hate to have situations like that where you're kind of rotating through these offensive coordinators over and over again, and you're missing out on years because X, Y, and Z isn't working, no matter the talent, right? So you would hate, and it's all hypotheticals, it's all ifs, right? But at the end of the day, Webb could leave, Peyton brings in somebody, and it's like we get another Kevin Patullo situation where it's like, the run game isn't working again. So-and-so is not getting the ball. And you're in a spot where it's like now you're trying to rotate through offensive coordinators. Fans are calling for their jobs by week 10.
Mhm.
And you're just kind of in this predicament where, what do you do? So I hope he stays for at least 2 years. Like, I hope he is like, I'm committed to this for at least 2 years, like, Ben Johnson was with Detroit before taking his. But, I mean, if that possibility where Peyton out of the blue is kind of sitting there, wondering if it's time and Webb is somehow promoted to Denver's head coach. I don't think it's completely out of the realm, even though I do think it is like the least likely, outcome.
Well, I keep thinking of that comment or quote that Sean Payton had. I believe was like at the end of the game with Buffalo, or it was at some point like right around the point I believe was like struggling driving in the rain. Like that was his quote. That quote I've just consistently thought about for a long time. And so that's one of the reasons why I wonder, it's like, has he been contemplating? And I guess Sean even said it, like they had a conversation about it mid-season. That was like the first time we ever heard about it. It was like they actually had a conversation mid-season about, play calling and stuff like that. So this isn't really something for their sake that's new. And again too, it's like he is also in his mid-60s, which is relatively older, if you will. But he's also, it's also too, like on the Sean Payne side of things too. For me, it's like it wasn't that he was like terrible as an offensive coordinator either. Like he is one of the best offensive minds the game has ever seen. So it's, at the end of the day, it's a win-win situation. You really do have to kind of manage the situation as they come, and we'll definitely see. But it's an exciting time necessarily for the 2026 season. Another thing that's exciting is Vance Joseph might actually be entering the Dennis Allen arc. For the Denver Broncos. As much as we talk about Davis Webb staying, I would probably say it seems a little bit more likely that Vance Joseph is going to be your coach for the for maybe his Bronco tenure. And I talk about a whirlwind of emotions with Vance too. I mean, like you're talking about a guy who was run out of town, from Bronco fans in the Paxton Lynch era to Paxton Lynch losing his game against Mahomes in the New Year's Eve game, and the freezing cold of that New Year's Eve game, and then being brought back for that his final year with Case Keenum, and and obviously Vance was the head coach, and it was the year where we all thought it could be Kirk Cousins. Von Miller was expecting it to be Kirk Cousins, and it ended up not being Kirk, but he ended up being fired, and then goes over to Arizona, does a decent job over there with Arizona, becomes a head coaching candidate again, and then also he kind of finds himself a little bit more valuable as a defensive coordinator, and Sean Payton, of all people, deciding between Rex Ryan and a couple other defensive coordinators, Jim Leonard even, brings him back. And now you're talking about a full circle moment where, dare I say that Vance Joseph, maybe, I know the defensives have certainly been lacking, each year, the last, couple years, but they have been really, stout, if you will. It's just as a defense the last couple of years, but I think that when you look at it, Vance is kind of entering a territory where you might Ring of Fame him at some point if this thing continues.
I haven't really even thought about that, to be honest. I don't know, like the fan base is so split on Vance, right?
Still a little bit, yeah.
And like, granted, and I understand why, because like it's kind of like how Cliff Kingsbury is as a coordinator, right? Whereas offenses tend to, lack towards the second half of the season and all that. And the 2 seasons with Vance here, or the last 2 seasons for when we made playoffs, it's kind of been similar to that. And I get like people are kind of frustrated by that. Like they're not, but again, like we won a playoff game, even though we allowed 30 points, but like we forced 5 turnovers that game and whatnot. So it's like, I don't know. That's a weird conversation to have.
It's early. Don't get me wrong. It's early. It's early, but it's just, I'd be lying if I wasn't at least entertaining the idea. It was like, if this thing goes on for another year, and obviously I'm staying, it's at least the thought that I think that would be worth entertaining.
I would say, I mean, I would say he has a little ways to go. I think for me
far down the road.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, I don't have no say. I don't know how, people really weigh that, you know what I mean? But I would say he has a ways to go. But I mean, in terms of having him back, I've had my issues with him. I think the way the defense played after the bye was honestly like
disappointing.
You could say bad. Like, I mean, the Commanders game, like, what is going on? Like, it was bad. And it kind of feels like every time they got to play a big offensive line with a really good running back, it's kind of like he has no answers. And I do know that is because Denver does have a lighter defensive front.
Yep.
Outside of like Zach Allen, probably, yeah. Like Benito and Cooper, I still don't think are very good against the run. They've had their moments, but on a down-to-down basis, it's not there. Roach, DJ Jones, and Zach Allen, they're all great. They're all great against the run, but they are smaller bodies. So when you got to play somebody like Buffalo, where they're huge, it's like, man, they just run the ball. And that Bills game, like, if Denver doesn't force, and you could argue this, if Denver doesn't force one of those 5 turnovers, do they win that game? Like, I'm like genuinely think about it. Like, I was frustrated with the way James Cook was running all over us. It felt like Allen. There was way too many plays with Cooper and Benito on the field where he had all day to throw. And so I just think going forward, I'm glad VJ's back. You know what you have, right? You have proof of concept what the defense can be.
Yeah,
50 plus sacks every year, right? But I do want to see. I do want to see like some better play from the inside linebacker group, and we'll get into that later. But I do want to see the run defense, even though statistically it was good. But when us three, we watch every snap of the season, you can see that there are some problems with the run defense and covering tight ends and covering running backs. So I want to see that obviously improve. You obviously hope that, the sack numbers and the man coverage stays elite. We had to go back to your point in terms of like a ring of fame. I'm like, I don't know. I think I need
it's early, but it's something I'd be lying if I,
That would be funny as hell, making the ring of fame for a team that fired you. That would be an all-time stat there.
It also would be very Bronco-y too.
Yeah. Right.
So and I think that is kind of like what and that kind of leads us into the outlook of where things are, because like all things considered, Vance Joseph and this defense is still a top 5 defense. Like it is a top 5 defense. There are just a little bit of some tweaks that needs to happen. The biggest one obviously is what to make of the linebacker room, like truly like what to make of the linebacker room. And then just kind of adding a little bit more beef on the defensive line. Like those are kind of like a couple of the biggest decisions that need to be made. It's not going to change things relative to where things are as a top 5 unit, but it's one that's going to be to what you guys are talking about, right? It's like it's going to prolong things probably as a defense in the trenches. That's going to allow to be better matched up. Like hypothetically, you are seeing the Bills again, and you are going to see the Bills in the regular season, but it's going to allow you. The chance to be better matched up against them, because and Josh Allen was the reason they were in the game. Josh Allen was the reason they lost the game. And so it's just to kind of look a little bit in that outlook, and maybe we could just kind of start there with the defenses. There, like I said, it's still a bit of a top 5 defense, but there are weak links when it comes to the positional groups, and ironically enough, it starts with the linebacker position again.
I wouldn't say ironically, because it's been like that for what it feels like 10 years now.
It's just funny because like we had the conversation about it last year, and then sure enough,
it's the exact same problems as last year everywhere around the whole team, right? So if you start with linebackers, obviously, let's adjust the elephant in the room. It's this whole Alex Singleton talk, right? And some people they appreciate he got way better in the run game towards the end of the year. I'll give him that. He had his moments in coverage towards the end of the season. But at some point, I'm talking to the fans who want to re-sign him. Like at some point, you got to be realistic with yourself.
Yep.
33 years old. He's probably one of the worst pass coverage linebackers, maybe pass coverage players in general in the entire league. And like I don't think tackles from like chasing down running backs and tight ends who fucking beat you is enough to bring him back. I'll say that respectfully because I like Alex Singleton as a person. The cancer story
No,
is
yeah.
obviously badass and everything, but like there are still, and I think it was on this show. It was either in your show or it was on a David Talk Sports show where it was.
Yeah.
It's like Alex Singleton is not the only linebacker in the league who's a nice guy and can be a green dot on the defense. Okay, I get it. Like you want the locker room presence, good for you. Like you could be the nicest guy in all the world, but if you suck ass at your job, then like I can't get behind it. I'm sorry. And then on top of all that, it's like this talk about him getting a raise, nonetheless. And I'm like, come on, like let's be real, okay?
And not just any raise, a $10 million a year and maybe a little bit more raise.
The same deal as Greenlaw, basically.
Yeah.
For a 33-year-old linebacker.
I would say, honestly, I don't know if you guys remember this, but you guys remember the Commanders game? There was like that long fourth down, and they threw it down the middle of the earth, and he like broke it up. I swear that play has people convinced that he's like good.
He needed that moment because that was his first game back from.
Yeah.
So I'm not mistaken.
I will say that you hit on it, Bryce. Like he's a phenomenal leader, phenomenal person. I said what's up to him at training camp. Like coolest dude ever.
I got them up at the one game.
Yeah, he's the coolest dude ever. But you have to be real with yourself. At some point, everyone talks about this is a business, and it's like you don't even have to watch the all 22 film angle to see that he's not very fluid in his hips. His agility is not great. He cannot cover running backs or tight ends. I really did think his run defense got a lot better in the second half of the season. It's like people never talked about that. Like it wasn't great. It got way better. Second half of the season, he was actually a really good run defender.
He and Sarah really good.
Yes. But I've literally been, I tweeted this earlier, begging for a linebacker for at least 4 or 5 years. Like, I could just go through names, and a lot of them are busts. A lot of them are great, but like, I've been pounding the table for one, and you're not going to get a Fred Warner, right? It's damn near impossible. But you need somebody who is athletically gifted to where it's like you don't have to worry about them covering tight ends and running backs.
Right.
As simple as it is, right? You know what I mean? Because Denver runs so much man. Like you have to have somebody who is capable of running stride for stride with somebody like Dalton Kincaid, right? And of course, this is the draft to do that. Let's see if they do it. And free agency, right? It's like Devin Lloyd, Nakobe, like those guys are available. So I would like Sternad back. I do think he's going to get a chance to start somewhere else, deservingly so.
He did sign somewhere else, and then
So Dre Greenlaw, I think he had obviously a good impact, but he's got to stay healthy. You have to have at least 2 more extra bodies in there, because I hate to say it, but he's just not reliable right now health wise. You know what I mean? So I'm excited to see what they do there. I think they're finally going to address it. I love some guys in the draft. I had a post about Jacob Rodriguez kind of blow up earlier out of nowhere, so get into that later. But they've got to fix it.
He's a popular pick in Broncos country, and I do love some J-Rod.
He's a popular pick for every fan. Dude, every mock draft I see on Twitter, everybody has him in the 3rd round, 2nd round. It's like,
if you go into the comments on my post, you got Raider fans, Panther fans, Bears fans, all kinds of like, nah, he's coming to. I'm like, all right. I mean, all right.
But that's the thing is like with the linebacker position, you're looking at regardless of Greenlaw staying, you're looking at probably a little bit of a different room. And I think that's the point is like, and with Alex Singleton too, it's like, you guys really hit on it just well. It's like, I don't blame Bronco fans really, rallying around a warrior. Like, I really don't blame them. Like, with Alex Singleton, I mean, he's been a warrior his entire career with the Broncos. I mean, the guy signed a meaningless contract to begin. Like it was a 1 year, $2 million contract, $3 million contract or whatever. It was peanuts when he first signed. He initially earned the extension, then rightfully so. Like he earned the extension the first time, but then as the season was progressing and then as it was progressing, he did become a really solid run defender, but also even that is give and take because we also know that despite the coverage, deficiencies and being a solid run defender, you also come with the territory of missed tackles. And the missed tackles and the missed pursuit, and everything there too of tackles is something that is sadly a Singleton MO. So like for as much as he does rack up a lot of tackles, he racks up a lot of missed tackles too because of the opportunities that he over pursues, and all things considered there too. And Justin Sternad, he falls into the category of like the linebacker version of PJ Locke, where PJ Locke, rightfully earned the starting job when he got that deal. Unfortunately, he kind of became what he is and should be in the NFL, which is a very solid backup safety for a defense. And Sternad, he definitely rightfully earned himself a bit of a pay raise. The question is just, what is that pay raise? Because I would argue that Sternad, based on value and contract, if Singleton does get a pretty hefty raise, I would much rather re-sign Justin Sternad for half of that money, and then maybe still roll with him on special teams, and then rebuild the linebacker room off of that, while including Greenlaw, and then just kind of letting Singleton, right off. And it really, the Singleton stuff, it's, we enjoyed having a warrior. It's just like you also still have to be able to target and stuff with some of those deficiencies, and they've really lacked when it comes to the pass coverage. And Greenlaw, for the moments he was healthy and the moments that he was in the game, he was an impactful player. I mean,
he was the Dre Greenlaw that we know.
Yeah.
I think it was when Edge was mentioning it, it's like, you're not going to get a Fred Warner. It's like, I still believe Dre Greenlaw can be the best Dre Greenlaw, Like, I get it. Like, his one concern when we signed him was injuries, and shocker. Like, that was his main problem this year. But you cannot overlook the fact of how good he was when he played.
Texans game. You don't need to look no further.
Oh, that goal line stand, dude. Like,
yeah,
that made the contract worth it. All in my opinion, right? Like, he's so, and not to mention, he's obviously probably the best pass coverage linebacker on the team. Other than the one Josh Jacobs phenomenal touchdown. But, and then like, I hear all these people like they want to cut Greenlaw as well. They just want a complete revamp in that room. I was like, you know what you were getting when you signed to Greenlaw, right? And I get it. It was definitely probably a lot worse than a lot of fans probably expected, because he started off the season unhealthy, came back for one game, got suspended for a game, comes back, he finally plays like a decent stretch of games, and then he pulls his hammy at the end of the Jaguars game, right? And like, I understand like everybody's frustration, because we've been pissed at the linebacker room for 10 years now.
For sure.
But I just can't get behind the fact of cutting him just to free up money. Like, how many linebackers are you going to get like better than Dre Greenlaw, And I get it. Like, there's still no guarantee he plays a full season again. But you knew what you were getting when you signed into a 3-year deal, right?
Right.
I still believe he can be the peak of his game, like in the right situation. But then going back to Sternad, like, yeah, like Sternad, I want to say like 3 years younger than Singleton. He's 30 years old. He might have earned himself like a Cody Barton type of deal somewhere else.
Yeah.
But you're right. Like, I would love to bring him back on like maybe a lower end of the spectrum, like 2-year deal and anything, just to get behind, like, maybe give him the chance to be the green dot. Because the one game that Singleton missed, it was Sternad and Greenlaw in the Chiefs game. And I thought they did pretty well that game. Even though, from what it sounds like, those two together don't communicate very well together on the field.
Was there one game though? So you're trying to like, it's the give and take of like.
Exactly. It's a small sample size.
Yeah.
But it's like, there's such thing as too many new faces. I get it. Like, they've been bad.
Mm-hmm.
But do you want to really ride? Do you want your most experienced linebacker to be a guy who played, how many games did Greenlaw play? Maybe 8 games, 9 games? Do you want him to be your green dot linebacker, Or are you going to go into this draft and draft C.J. Allen, 20-year-old who ran Georgia's defense in college? Are you going to go out in free agency, sign Devin Lloyd, who had a career year? I don't know. But I'm still kind of on the Singleton topic. That's the one thing that would ruin my offseason is if they bring back Singleton. And it's nothing against him as a person, it is everything against him as a player.
Well, and we'll kind of wrap it up with this in terms of like maybe looking at the outlook, and we can tie in the draft and free agency in this, but it's just like to just answer it this way. And frankly, you could ask the same question for like 3 or 4 position groups, and this is one of them. It's like, do you want the highest ceiling possible when it comes to the linebacker room? Because if you do, I would say Greenlaw staying is your best option for highest ceiling for this linebacker room. And so when you look at the highest ceiling possible, why you would probably say that free agency and then go to the draft. And then you can fill out your other linebacker rooms with the Lavelle Baileys of the world, the Karene Reeds, and then at that point, maybe you can, I don't know, see maybe Drew Sanders exists once in a while. But it's just like, I think that if you can go with it as far as the highest ceiling possible, it just makes total sense to have a Greenlaw and then rebuild it from there with free agency and with the draft and then fill it out with the Lavelle Baileys, the Karene Reeds. What do we say, Edge?
No, I agree. I think you got to keep adding to that group. Like, you're only going to find a starter by adding to that group and seeing what you got. You know what I mean? If you kind of you don't give it much effort and you throw maybe one body in there, it's like you're kind of setting yourself up for a very vulnerable spot, especially if Greenlaw got hurt. There's multiple names in free agency that aren't Devin Lloyd caliber. There's guys like somebody as small as like Micah McFadden or Christian Harris, 2 guys who aren't necessarily proven in the league, but they offer you depth and they offer you playing experience. You put it best. I think they should add somebody in free agency and add somebody in the draft. The only way that you can get the best out of that linebacker group is to see what you got and try and draft and develop, because Drew Sanders is really the only guy outside of a couple undrafted free agents that they've really thrown there draft wise. And of course he cannot stay healthy for whatever reason. And I was really excited about him. I thought he extremely athletic, can play off the edge, you know what I mean? But
coach's son.
Yeah, so I'm looking at a couple of names in free agency that I like. Outside of Devin Lloyd, I know Nakobe Dean, there's some news coming out that he's probably going to test the market. He's a guy that I like. And of course, I mentioned McFadden from the Giants, Christian Harris from the Texans. They're both athletic guys. They're both – McFadden is good against the run. I think he's not great in pass coverage. But, to take this defense to like Texans Seahawks level, I think they've got to add somebody right in the smack middle, because you look at Seattle. I mean, look what Ernest Jones did for them. You look at all the more often than not, the top tier teams in the NFL, they have like a true game changer at middle linebacker. So I think it's important to pair somebody with Dre Greenlaw. I would like to bring back Sternad. I'd actually be shocked if he did not get an opportunity somewhere else to start. So.
Bryce, what would you say? I know you were eyeballing, Nakobe Dean, I believe it was today. I assume he was one of the guys you're circling.
I've always been a Nakobe Dean guy. Even before, it was when we drafted Benito, I was really high on Nakobe Dean. He fell in that draft because of injury concerns. So he's kind of the same as Greenlaw. He has an injury history, but when he plays, he's a baller, right? The second Philly drafted Jahan Campbell last year, I was kind of like in the back of the mind is Denver would have the opportunity to sign Nakobe Dean. I think it was Luca Evans on Twitter who asked him about Denver and whatnot. He says, "Yeah, we'll see what happens, but I'm kind of interested," or something like that. He said something like that. Yeah. So that's kind of like a bias thing. I have no sources on that at all. That's just kind of me hoping they do go after him. I know a lot of people in Broncos country like Caden Ellis from Atlanta. There's like a bunch of interesting names out there. And then again, going back to the draft, this is the deepest linebacker draft in once in a lifetime.
I don't think I've ever seen a linebacker class this deep.
Yeah, if they don't come away with one in at least the first 3 rounds, man, I have no hope for them to ever get a good linebacker.
I might lose faith.
Yeah, right.
Linebacker, I swear.
I wouldn't even be the least bit surprised if I mean, well, will they? I don't know. But I would not be upset at all if they wanted to double up at the linebacker position in this draft.
Fuck it, why not?
And go get a downhill linebacker like Josiah Trotter, and who's also pretty good in coverage, and then go out and get a linebacker later, or see, or maybe even double up on your picks, quickly. I guess you could say the linebacker version of Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler. Sorry for the whole PTSD moment right there.
Wow.
But no. Maybe you go CJ Allen and then a Trotter, or you go Trotter and then you do a J-Rod, or one of my favorite linebackers, actually two favorite linebackers if you will, is Jake Galde and Kyle Lewis, because we know how safety turn linebacker, and that's Kyle Lewis, can turn out in the NFL. And I mean, Lewis is already one of the better coverage linebackers, and there's a lot in this draft. So I don't know. I would not be the least bit surprised. And obviously another position, and we said that basically do you want the highest ceiling possible, is frankly the running back room and the tight end room, right? Is like, do you want the highest ceiling possible when it comes to the tight end room? And do you want the highest ceiling possible when it comes to the running back room, right? And so kind of like looking at those two positions, I mean, frankly, it's looking like still, even though, some of the news that came down today, they're still looking at probably rebranding that whole entire running back room, except for probably RJ Harvey.
Yeah. I thought you put it best when you said it's basically impossible to get a true number one at receiver, a true number one at tight end, and a true number one at running back all in the same offseason. I think that's just not, you cannot rely on that. Exactly. So I think trying to get it at tight end and running back maybe is, gives you more of a real possibility. But my biggest thing is if you can upgrade our running back and tight end, I mean, significantly, I think the receiving group is going to get better. They're going to benefit from that. I think the fact that you had basically no run game after Dobbins, you had little to no tight end production, it put more on the receivers. It put more on Cortland Sutton. It put more on Franklin, Matt Bryant. Like, if you have a run game and you have a tight end who's actually doing something in the pass game, your receivers are going to get more opportunities, and you're not going to feel like, Cortland Sutton has to get double teamed all the time down the field. And now you're relying on Troy Franklin and a rookie Pat Bryant. And so I think, me personally, I think tight end and running back would actually be my 1 and 2 in front of receiver. I know a lot of people are banging the table to trade for a receiver. It's, I will say I would love Jalen Waddle. I would love AJ Brown, but at the end of the day, I just don't think it's realistic. Maybe it happens, right? But at the end of the day, I think investing in running back and tight end is going to elevate the offense more than having mediocre options at running back and tight end and getting a Waddle or an AJ Brown.
And they tried to address running back and tight end last offseason, right? They bring in Dobbins late. They bring him on a cheap deal. He kind of like, he got injured towards the end of last season as well. So he was always going to sign later. We got him on a steal of a contract. And I had to talk about this on Twitter with somebody, I forget who, but like, for how good our O-line is, like, their run blocking is very overrated. And Dobbins is the only running back in recent years to make it look somewhat like elite, And I get it, like, again, like, sounds like a topic with all our players. I get it, he's injury prone, but I think it's impossible to ignore that he was top 3 in rushing yards before he got injured at one point. Like, that's just, I can't get rid of that production. And he'll sign another cheap deal, whether it's with us, whether it's somewhere else. It's just unfortunate for him, but he's got to stay healthy. He's got to prove that he's durable enough, right? I get it was an unfortunate injury too. I'm not going to shut him into that, but you're right. Like, when Dobbins goes down, like, Harvey's touchdown numbers are cool and all, but like, come on, again, we watched the games. He's not running between the tackles like efficiently at all. He's just like, he's a very good third down receiving back. He, in my opinion, would like flourish very well in the Bidet role. But
what about Tyler Bidet?
Let's not talk about it. I don't know. I get it that tender we put on him today isn't like the worst thing in the world, because like you would put that on anybody, right? It's just the idea of like, dude, come on, like nobody like enjoyed watching Tyler Day play last year.
Apparently, Bo Nix did.
Yeah, it's the pass blocking, I guess.
Well, in that case, I gotta fucking support him then, I guess. But yeah, so I was like, you definitely got to address the running back room, whether it's through the draft, whether it's double dip in free agency. Maybe that's kind of what I've been pushing. Resign Dobbins, bring in like a David Montgomery, bring in like a Tyler Algier. Maybe I'm a big fan of like those bigger type of backs,
Mm-hmm.
And then we were talking about the tight end room. Like last year, we bring in Evan Ingram. A lot of us wanted Evan Ingram, myself included. I'm still a big believer in like he wasn't used the way that he should have been, right? He should have been almost used as like our slot receiver. He's the middle of the field threat. He can get open on linebackers. Like he was only 2 years removed from his one. I think it was like 100 receptions or something in a season, if I'm not mistaken. It's like we know what he's capable of, and I just don't know. We give him maybe like 3 or 4 targets a game,
right?
And some of them were like ugly throws, some of them were bad drops. I think his drop numbers were very inflated because drop numbers are very subjective, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think they said he had the second most on the team. I don't believe that. I don't think he was that bad. Not even close.
Yeah.
Well, it's just I don't know, like.
And to that point, like for as much as we praise Bo, like I will say half the throws, and look, I love Bo as much as the next guy. Like I end the show with
"Let's go Broncos! God bless Bo Nix."
I end the show every time with that. I love Bo Nix, but it's just like when it comes to Evan Ingram, it did feel like half the throws that Bo was throwing to Ingram were just off by like inches, or like
Texans game missed a touchdown. The Raiders game the next week missed a touchdown. Those were like the two that really stick out to me.
Yeah. So it's like, again, like so as much as we like, we'll praise Bo, it did feel like with the Evan Ingram stuff, it felt like maybe it was more so Bo at times, and as well as Ingram, dropping the ball. So I don't know.
Yeah, they kind of didn't mesh well together. Maybe it's just like growing pains.
Yeah.
Which is why we signed him to like just a 2-year deal. This isn't like a long-term option. It was just to actually get a tight end in that room, because like again, everybody knows the tight end room was abysmal the year before, and they tried to adjust. Like again, like this whole talk about Ingram being a joker, and they give him like 4 targets a game or something like that. That's just like something I can't really get behind. But again, watching all these, like again, you're watching the combine right now. The tight ends are literally going right now. It's kind of hard to overlook how promising some of these guys look.
Yeah, regardless of the fact that Kenyon Sadiq just ran a faster 40 than Bijan Robinson and Christian McCaffrey, or Stowers actually had a better broad jump and
NMSU legend Eli Stowers.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, how would you guys remake the room? Obviously, it feels like the way of like the highest ceiling still conversation. But Edge, how when you look at the tight end room, like how would you remake the room if you're looking at it?
To me, it's pretty simple. You have got to get a guy that never has to come off the field, that can play in line, can block, and when they come out offensively, the defense isn't looking at your personnel and going, okay, 75-80% chance this is a pass, 75-80% chance this is a run. Because when Ingram was on the field, you kind of got more of an idea it was probably be a pass, right? Just because he's not, an elite blocker. So for me, whether that's in the draft or in free agency, they've got to get somebody who can stick their hand in the ground, block, but also go out and catch the ball. So, I tweeted a couple of days ago, some of the top guys I want in free agency, and my top 2 is Dallas Goedert and Daniel Bellinger. 2 guys who can block, 2 guys who can catch passes. Great in the play action game, great underneath. I just think Bo hasn't really had that. Like Ingram wasn't really that, whether it was his fault or not. It's a combination of 2. And in the draft, there's some guys that can do that. You know what I mean? Sadiq is not falling to 30, unfortunately. I think everyone knew he wasn't going to fall that far.
It was wishful thinking for sure.
Yeah, it's when you want a tight end of that caliber, you're not making the playoffs the year prior. But I mean, a guy like Max Clare from Ohio State, I think is somebody who can play in line and catch the ball, who never really ever has to come off the field. The Stanford guy, Sam Roush, great blocker. I mean, he plays in line. He can develop as a receiver, right? Like probably almost every tight end coming out of college. But they've got to be able to come in 12 personnel, 13 personnel. I mean, look at the Rams. Look how they ran 13 personnel all year long.
3 tight end sets all the time.
They killed you all game. Like, you had no answer for it. And, yeah, they have Matthew Stafford and Nakua and Devon. Yeah, but when you're able to have that aspect in your offense, it changes things dramatically in the run game and in the pass game. So I think really prioritizing somebody who can block and somebody who can catch it's as simple as that. I don't really think it's anything too, complex. I'm really pulling for Daniel Bellinger. He's only like 25 years old. I mean, he had that huge touchdown against the Giants, blown coverage, but I mean, I'm pounding the table for him.
That was the tip one, I thought.
And that was Theo Johnson.
Yeah, Theo Johnson had the tip one, and then Bellinger had the first one, right? Like,
I wonder whose fault that was. I wonder
who's the coverage on that one.
Yeah, dude.
Every big play highlight is the same. It's the same 2 people. It's Moss and it's Singleton. Okay.
Yeah, I would love to have Singleton and Bellinger just one-on-one in training camp, and this man is just cooking him, dude. The video clips, I could just see it already, dude. Like, dude. But no, it's a very good class. I like Eli Stowers. I think he's like more of a receiving threat. I think he can block.
Totally. According to the combine, he's
dude got hops. So,
Jesus.
Yeah. The first time I watched Sadiq, I was like, man, Bronco this guy immediately. But because me being pessimistic, I was like, week 15, week 16, we'll pick 27th, 26th.
Yeah, but I would just say this, like, just for the Sadiq thing here briefly, because I will say, regardless of what's going to happen, Sadiq, whatever, like, I don't know how confident I am that they'll be picking at 30. Because like that's the thing. It's like if you're putting a percentage right now of like the Broncos and pick 30, I would most definitely be putting it at under 50%, just because I do get the sense that they're going to be a little bit more aggressive this year with their cash specifically, even though that they have, in air quotes, relatively low cap room before the restructures and everything. But they'll probably, use their cash as their saving grace and everything and go out and, spend big on at least, I would say at max 2 free agents, like the maybe a running back, linebacker, whatever. But they're going to make sure they fill all their needs through free agency that they can. And then in the draft, I don't know, like that's where it's like, and the Sadiq thing is interesting because it's like, if he's at least within sniffing range, and granted, how likely is anyone's guess? But like if he's within sniffing range, it's going to be really hard. I would imagine, and specifically too in a year where they probably should have drafted Ibuka at 19, or the Bucks drafted him at 19, and knowing the fact that the Bucks basically are one of the lone teams that might need a tight end, this year, I would probably venture to guess that the Broncos might try and do something to try and get ahead of the Buccaneers this time, if they, or at least are very, very interested in Sadiq. So I don't know. But the point is just, I just don't know how confident I am that they're picking at 30.
I think. Well, my question is okay. Let's say Sadiq's not even in the range, right? Are you basically saying you think they'll move down because in this draft, because it's not super top heavy, right? So when you're picking 30th, the only way I could see you moving up is if like someone truly slid down that you did not expect to be there, because I don't really think there's going to be a guy at 20 through whatever 27, 20, 29 that is worth giving up capital for. And then the flip side of that is if you're trading back, it's kind of the same. You kind of come to the same conclusion, like who is going to be there that's worth a team trading up back into the first round to get? You know what I mean? Unless they really want like that 5th-year option for a certain position, right? So that's why I wish they would trade down. I wish they would trade down basically every draft. But my question is like, well, who's trading up? And if the Broncos are trading up, like I personally don't think Sadiq's going to make it past like 18 or something. Like I just think what Colson Loveland did for the Bears, what Tyler Warren did for the Colts, that tight end position.
The lone tight end. He's also the lone tight end.
Exactly. He's literally the only one who probably go in the first round. So I just have a hard time believing he's going to fall past right the midpoint in the first round. So I actually think Denver staying at 30 is probably more probable than you'd probably guess.
Yeah, I was the same way. I said the same thing. Like whether it's the George Payton special, he tries to trade down, gets more picks. Breaking news, by the way, George Payton's going to sign an extension. Yada yada. We already knew that, but whether it's trading back down, whether it's actually trying to be aggressive, not in free agency or not as much as in free agency, but in the draft, if you try and trade up for Sadiq or whoever else they like or whatnot. Yeah, like I'm not entirely confident they stay at 30 either, and I never really have been this entire time.
Yeah.
But you're right. It really just depends on who's there. And kind of just like what like position of need we need or anything. Like, this is a lot of different factors that play into it.
Yeah, and I think that probably when you look at a draft that is so heavy on a couple positions, frankly, and, not to, talk too much about our very favorite position, or I should say Jordan's favorite position, and he's not here, being the wide receiver position. The wide receiver class is actually pretty deep this year. So if the Broncos at least wanted to just add another body, I wouldn't be the least bit surprised, right? And that was probably one other position we didn't get a chance to mention too when it comes to free agency and when it came to the draft. But it's like when it comes to trading down, I would probably say I feel a little bit more comfortable they're trading down than up, just because like they can be able to get a decent amount of capital, and you can maybe get a couple running backs in there, or depending on what you do with running back, whatever. Like, but just you can go get a running back, you can get a linebacker, you can maybe add into your defensive line, which is also a rather deep class. So, but I will say the wide receiver room, just briefly, just to have that conversation, is a really fascinating conversation because obviously it's a really low bar. But the Broncos hiring Ronald Curry, I think, is going to be probably one of the sneakiest moves this entire cycle. Because I know that, granted, I know Sean Payton doesn't really have a history of going out and getting a superstar, but I also know that Ronald Curry has been paramount in developing his room when it comes to New Orleans. And I would not be the least bit surprised if they didn't add anyone, but you also got a chance to see a little bit better development from some of these guys in the wide receiver room. But I also wouldn't be the least bit surprised because of how much Sean trusts him, and frankly, even Davis Webb, that they go out and maybe add a body in free agency, and then they go out and maybe are a little bit aggressive for a player who maybe probably isn't going to be there at 30, or probably wasn't supposed to be there at 30, that they take at 30. I know Lance Zernline had, KC Concepcion, which would be an incredible pick, but there's other players too in this draft that I think would be very fascinating for them to take. But what's your guys' take too on this, like the very famous position group that obviously is such a hot button topic when it comes to that wide receiver position?
Where to start? So again, going back to the whole, you're one game away from the Super Bowl. How bad is your receiver room really? Is that they were second in the league in drops, right? You had one 1,000-yard receiver, you had one 700-yard receiver, and the rest are 500 yards, right? At their best, it's not a bad core. Okay, like Sutton's one of the best third down receivers in the league. Okay, that's like one of the things he's still got in him, right? Troy Franklin had a breakout year. I know a lot of us like to hate on Troy Franklin, myself included, but like he's probably our best route runner. He's like one of the ones who kind of consistently gets open. Pat Bryant, when he's healthy, again, health concerns, every player. But Pat Bryant especially, Pat Bryant does it all. Pat Bryant is the dirty work receiver. Like, that's our best blocker. The dude's a great middle of the field threat. I didn't really like that pick at first. I'm glad to be proven wrong on that. I'll die for Pat Bryant.
Need
My
Jordan.
guy Mims. Oh,
Need
yeah, go
Jordan.
ahead.
No, I was gonna say just you need Jordan, so all of a sudden we can just actually talk some truth into Jordan about Pat Bryant.
I talked about it. I talked with him in a chat saying, like, yeah, I felt the exact same way about Bryant. It's like, nobody shits on me for it. Thank God. But,
Yeah.
And then we get to Mims, where it's just the same talk every year. It's, we don't use him enough. And then they continue not to use him enough. So it's just like, I don't know what their ideology with him is. I don't know if, like, he's due for an extension this next offseason. It's projected to be so much cheaper. I think he'll sign it because not only because I think he would flourish with Webb. I think Webb knows how to actually use him and all that, but because of his return ability. He's one of the best returners in the league, so they got to bring him back. But I truly think he has probably the best hands on the team. You know, I get it, he's not the best route runner at all. He kind of runs just the same old route every time. But, you know, like, it's this whole, like, he was like the initial Joker, right? Kind of like beginning last year, they would play him out of the backfield. They'd run that little fucking wheel route out of the backfield. It works every goddamn time, right? And then on top of that, he's your best deep ball guy. Like, I think, I don't want to say all around. I don't want to say he's their best all around guy, but I think he kind of does everything well, and they just don't know how to, like, insert him in the lineup. I don't know. It's a weird situation. I get it. I'm biased as well, but
Yeah.
it's just like, I'm just continuous. And then in the playoffs, he goes off, right? Because Pat Bryant had the amazing first drive against Buffalo, gets hurt, right? So Mims is now your two. Or did Franklin play that game? Franklin didn't play that game, huh?
He was actually he played the game, got injured, and actually was out of that game pretty early.
So shocker. They both got injured. Shocker. So Mims instantly becomes a wide receiver too. He had never mind. What was I gonna say? He had 300 yards in the regular season. He had half of that in 2 games in the playoffs. And it's just like, he had one receiving touchdown all season, and he gets the game winner against the Bills.
Very smaller sample size compared to last year, but still roughly exactly the same of condensing everything.
Yeah, it's I really don't know. Like, I don't know if they do know how to utilize him, and that's what scares me. That would be the worst thing, is if they cut ties with him just simply because they don't know how to use him. It's like, you know what he does well. It's just they don't put him in the game. They don't target him. It's kind of a combination of everything. But anyways, I forget what we were even talking about. We were talking about the whole receiver room, right? So I was a big speak of the devil.
As we're talking wide receiver, it's so fitting.
What's up, boys? I sorry for the late appearance, but
hey, nice meeting you, man.
What's up, bro? What's up, guys?
What's up, Jordan? What's up?
Yeah, we were just talking about your favorite receiver. So,
oh boy,
not Jerry Jeudy.
Let's change topics now. I don't need a ramble.
I know,
but
I mean, I want to hit on Cortland Sutton. Look, I love the dude, but I think at his ceiling, he's best served as a 1B.
Yep.
I think, like, if he was in a T. Higgins role, he'd be phenomenal. And I think, he's going to be, year 8, year 9 now, and he's kind of just a hit him he runs digs, he runs goal balls, he runs a few comebacks. He doesn't have very much yak ability. The hands are inconsistent. So,
which was his one saving grace, right? Was he was the contested catch guy. He would every 50-50 ball to him was 80-20, 90-10.
Yeah.
And it's
so
that went away.
For me, it's Denver's got to get somebody who can just truly open everything up for everyone else. You know, teams are just bracketing Cortland the entire game, and it's like you're over here relying on, Franklin, who weighs like $170 or something, to beat bigger bodies at safety or corner. Pat Bryant, who is a rookie, and then of course Mims, who aren't deploying properly. It's like AJ Brown or Waddle would change the dynamic of this offense. But I did mention before, if Denver just got a better run game or more consistent run game and an actual game changer at tight end, I think the receiving group benefits. I think they all benefit from that. I don't think you take so much pressure off of everyone in that room if the other aspects of your offense are working. So, like I mentioned, I don't think they're going to end up trading for anyone. I don't think it would hurt to add a body. I know you mentioned Concepcion. I just got finished watching him. I think he's like Tyreek Hill and Khalil Shakir mixed into one, but I don't really know how that would like fit in the offense because I like Mims for that role. So I don't know, but yeah, I mean, obviously it'd be great to add somebody like AJ Brown or Waddle. What is the asking price? I think that it's probably a lot higher than it was mid-season at this point, specifically for Waddle. Because I don't think Miami wants to move off of him. Like him and Achane, I think are, building blocks for that franchise going forward. And if you were to trade them, like what the hell does Miami fans have to look forward to? Like, you know what I mean? So if they draft Chris Bell from Louisville at 30, I mean, great. I don't know how much of an impact he'd make, the upcoming season, but
I would say if that was the solution to the receiver room, was taking like somebody like Bell at 30, I think I would be a little disappointed. And like you're right, like it might rely more on the tight end, the running back room taking pressure off of them. But like a receiver is a quarterback's best friend, right?
Yep. And
it's gotten to the point where like everybody was kind of like playing at their worst. It felt like in that receiver room, like Sutton lost his one saving grace was contested catch. Like he's a good third down guy. He's not obviously he's probably the worst yak receiver in the entire league. He's not the best route runner. Also, granted, he gets double covered a lot. Pat Bryant was game banged up. Franklin fell off. Mims doesn't get used. It's just kind of like you're and then Lil Jordan Humphrey's getting 50% or whatever that crazy stat was in the goddamn playoffs.
To be fair, everybody was hurt that wide receiver room.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. Elijah Moore got like 30% of snaps in the AFC Championship. It was like this dude hasn't played a snap for us all season.
Yeah.
So it's just like they're missing somebody who can tie it all together, right? Mm-hmm. And like I keep mentioning Waddle because they tried to trade for Waddle at the deadline, right? Like they inquired about him. They didn't want to send however much Miami was asking for. I bet they revisit it, but you're right. Like I don't guarantee. Like the price is probably higher. Hopefully Surtain does some recruiting because that's his bud from college. That's kind of like the main reason I think we can get it done. But I don't know. Kind of like them, like kind of looking at the guys in free agency, like Wan'Dale Robinson. He's a great slot guy. He gets open all the time. He had a really good year. But it's like, do you really want to pay like $20 million a year for somebody like that? And it's just like. In the draft, I just feel like that's not the best position to take at 30. Like again, a deep linebacker class is like, I would want to take probably one of the best linebackers available, or Sadiq if he falls, for example, right?
Right. Jordan, the number one wide receiver hater on the entire planet. What say you when it comes to this wide receiver room, and why does it involve remaking the entire room?
Yeah, I've been on this for quite a while. I agree with everybody's sentiment with Courtland Sutton, even though I've been getting some hate for that, even though when I first said it a while back. And I understand he's been a long-tenured Bronco, and a lot of fans gravitate towards him. He's been here since the dog days and stuff like that. But in order for this offense to reach its level in terms of, winning the Super Bowl and making a deep playoff push, that room just needs to be revamped. I don't think he's a true wide receiver one. I agree with he's like at best a 1B. So for me, it just sucks that Marvin Mims isn't utilized the way he's supposed to be. I mean, he makes big catch after big catch every single time. I mean, it's been 2 playoffs now he made big catches in the playoffs this year. Last year was a couple crucial games where he came down with some unbelievable catches. I mean, he shows up whenever
Cincinnati game.
Yeah, he shows up whenever we need him, and it's just he plays 20-30% of the snaps on offense. I mean, it's incredible. But yeah, I've been on this train of this wide receiver room needs to be revamped. And listen, if it costs saying goodbye to a long tenured Bronco like Courtland Sutton, it is what it is. But I'm pretty sure he's gonna stay. He'll be the 1B or the 2 guy we need that alpha in that room.
It's just it's really hard for me, and like and I know it's going to come across as biased, but it is really hard for me to ignore the Wan'Dale Robinson stuff. Like, it is really hard for me to ignore it. And it's the same kind of logic that I've been battling too when it comes to another wide receiver now that they can actually sign, and a wide receiver that they can actually sign with no trading capital, and a wide receiver who was interested in them and actually said, yeah, I would love to play with the Denver Broncos, and they didn't actually trade for him, and that was Deebo Samuel. It's really hard for me to ignore guys like a Deebo and a Wan'Dale, and it really, Deebo specifically, just because it stems, and I think they're a little bit of a different player per se, like pound for pound wise, because I always compared Mims a little bit to a more of like a Harvin versus like Deebo is just Deebo. He's a 300-pound wide receiver / running back, So, but it's just like Wan'Dale was just one where it's fascinating because I can see a world where both he and Mims are being utilized on this team. Just because, like, I think that when you look at it, you can still utilize Mims in a lot of creative ways out of the backfield, and frankly, there's probably been a little bit more times I think where he can even win on boundary. I think there's some times where he can, win on, in the slot. So I just think that there's a lot of creative ways you can be able to work with him. But also too, I think there's at least a world. I'm not saying it's probably the ideal world because we all want to see Mims develop, but it's one where I could see a world where they sign him just simply based off of that special teams value, because he has really, really good special teams value. But like, off the again, it's really hard for me to ignore the Davis Webb connection with Wan'Dale, and it's just something where is that going to end up being more so a player that, am I looking at it wrong in terms of Robinson and Mims? That is Robinson going to be the player, frankly, that pushes Troy Franklin? Because I think that one part that I think Robinson also challenges in terms of for Franklin is just a player that can really get to any level of a defense as quick as a hurry, and it can take the top off. And I think that's just the other side of this too, is like, for as much as, the free agency market is a bunch of wide receiver 2s and a bunch of wide receiver 3s, which is basically a Wan'Dale, he's really one of the only wide receivers that just can, for the scheme and everything, can really do anything on all three levels for what this team needs.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I think Wan'Dale Robinson would be really good in this offense, but to me, that if hypothetically, if they were to bring in Wan'Dale, somebody in that room is going to be gone. I think it's hard to have Cortland Sutton, Mims, Franklin, Bryant, and then you throw in Wan'Dale. There's an odd man out there. I don't know if that's via trade. I don't know if however that looks. And I also do think Wan'Dale is going to cost a lot, because I do think Indy's going to work it out with Alec Pierce. Pickens is off the table. And so you kind of look at the receivers in free agency outside of like Mike Evans. Wan'Dale is going to be highly talented just because he's kind of like the only guy there who really is starter worthy. I mean, I'm probably forgetting a couple names, but I think he's going to cost a lot of money, especially if Alec Pierce goes back.
Relative, and when we say a lot of money, we mean relative, because like wide receiver money like is like for $30 million a year, but just like he's not going to get $30 million a year, but like like the 17 to maybe
20.
Yeah, 17 to 20, which
he's gonna have a lot of leverage if he's the only guy on the market.
Yeah.
But, I think one of those teams with like a lot of cap space will go after him, like Tennessee, something like that. But I wouldn't necessarily say there would be an odd man out. Like, I know what you mean, because that's kind of like 5 talented receivers. It's like, I don't know how to explain it. It's kind of, there are like receiver rooms in the NFL, like I want to say like the Jaguars, right? They have like these 4 or 5 really solid guys, and they all mesh together very well, right? They can all play their role when they're given the opportunity and whatnot. Shout out to Tim Patrick. You can make a receiver room like that work, I feel like. And I get like this offense, like with Webb, we have no idea what it would look like, but kind of like with the running game being as inconsistent as it is, I don't think it's a bad thing to keep Franklin or again, like some of like those lower guys. I don't even know who would be the bottom guy of our group. It would probably still be Franklin, even though he's our second leading receiver. But trying to see like Wandale would open up so much to us. And it's like it's not a sexy option. I get it. It's just he's just the best available guy in free agency. So we're trying to hype ourselves up. I get it. But it's hard, like for us at least, it's hard to find somebody who gets open consistently, right? Especially in the middle of the field at all three levels, like Edge was saying. Yeah, like I'm kind of trying to convince myself on some of those guys. Like that's really the only receiver in free agency I would go after.
That's why it was so funny when I was getting criticized on Twitter, going after like mid wide receivers. It's just like I only listed one, and it just so happened to be the fit of, this entire
it's the only
team.
one. It's the only one we talk about, right?
Right. So obviously, we're going to see if we can try and get a Broncos insider on the week before free agency. But there's a lot, there's a lot that could potentially happen. I would venture to guess we do expect them to be aggressive by use of cash. And, as we said, with the cap space that they have given to them. Jordan, you weren't here when we had the conversation talking about like linebacker, tight end, specifically. And, just to kind of keep it, simple for you, what's better to just make sure you sign a bunch of, depth guys to your team, or would you much rather prefer having about the highest ceiling possible when it comes to the linebacker room and tight end room, etc.?
Highest ceiling possible. If I'm being quite honest, we need to start getting some higher tier guys. I feel like right now, and like we just got finished done talking about the wide receiver room. Like that's a bunch of depth guys. Like we need that. We just need the whole roster to elevate in terms of the ceiling in every position group. Like I already know there's a few groups that we can mention right now that their ceiling's higher than the others, but we just need that throughout the whole roster. So yeah, I'm with the highest ceiling in terms of that.
We had the conversation about the running backs too a couple weeks ago about like the highest ceiling possible when it comes to running back, highest ceiling possible when it comes to tight end. So I'll put it on you guys, Bryce and Edge. We did it last year. Obviously, Jordan knows, but we did it last year where we did a prediction on offense, a prediction on offense, and then a prediction on defense, and maybe an honorable mention, just because we like to break the rules here on mainly. So
that's special team.
It's a special teamer. The Sam Franklin signing that ended up not working out.
I fucking hate Brandon Bean, dude. If I was a Bills fan, 3-year deal to a special teamer, like, jeez.
We'll start with you, Edge. Don't do your defensive signing, but start with offense, and then we'll do the other round, and we'll do a defensive signing.
You want me to go the route of like who I actually think they're going to sign, or who like I would want to sign?
Okay, because we like to break rules. We were
talking about it earlier.
We would be responsible enough adults when it comes to a stream to probably do what we think is going to happen prediction and what our own prediction would be, if you will.
Okay, I mean it's similar. I do think they're gonna sign a tight end. And if I had to put money on it, it's probably Dallas Goedert, Bellinger, or Otten. I know that's three guys. I know it's three. You want me to just choose one, but they're all kind of in the same category.
I told you.
Hey, they're all kind of categorized in the same group, right? Like you need an inline guy who can stay on the field, the majority of the time the offense is out there. You're not telling the defense what you're probably going to do when it comes to run and pass, right? So Goddard, great veteran, can catch the ball, can block. Bellinger, he's like 25, 26 years old, can catch the ball, can block, still has room to develop, right? So I do think they're going to dip at that tight end spot. I think Adam Troutman, Lucas Kroll, your favorite, Bryce,
NPC Madden generated player.
Nate Atkins. I mean, man, it's the trio of the absolute most mid tight end group of all time.
Not even mid, just straight irrelevant.
Yeah, it's so I do think they're going to dip there. If it's Otten, I'm fine with that. I'd like Bellinger or Goddard better. I know like there's a lot of Kate Otten haters. I thought that kind of came out of nowhere, dude. I posted about him and I had people coming to me like he's can't block, whatever. I know he's had some bad drops, whatever, but I do think they dip at the side end. I think they get a difference maker there. I don't really know what that means for Ingram's future. I think he'd probably be on the team next year. It was only a 2-year deal. So he's gone after 2026, but yeah, I think that's the route they go offensively.
But who is it then? Who's the tight end? You gotta pick one.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna go ahead and say Bellinger. I think they get Bellinger. I think his market value was like $6 million a year, $7 million. I think he probably goes for a little bit more just because of his age. I prediction would want Bellinger. Personally, would want Bellinger.
Okay. Bryce.
That was kind of like the direction I was leaning towards because we were talking about it earlier. Like, there's so many good free agent tight ends. There's only one really worthy tight end in the first round. That's probably not even going to fall to 30 anymore.
Right.
So I would probably say one of those tight ends as well. I like to throw in Njoku. I know a lot of people don't like Njoku anymore. Again, because Fannin kind of took over his role. But I was always a fan of Njoku. I've been preaching they trade for him for 2 years now or whatnot. Like, he's such a great red zone threat, even still. I think that people like to shit on his blocking nowadays too. But
yeah,
that's like wishful thinking, in my opinion. I don't know if they would. I wouldn't say that's my prediction. Anywhere on offense, huh? I don't know if this counts. I think they re-signed Dobbins.
It's a cop-out answer.
All right. Okay. All right. Well, let's spice it up then. On top of re-signing Dobbins, I think they signed someone else. And it's not somebody who's necessarily available right now. Could be a trade, could be a cut candidate. I think you guys know where I'm going because it's a hot topic on Twitter and all that. I think David Montgomery.
Oh, I was thinking Bijan Robinson. Sorry.
That would be holy shit. Yeah, I would trash my room in excitement. Everybody hyping for Algier, and we get Bijan. That'd be awesome. But
in a year where Kevin Stefanski, the offensive genius, got hired by Atlanta,
he was the best running back in the league, like legit.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I've kind of looked more into it, so it's like it was Dan Campbell who was talking about. Yeah, like we kind of feel like we did Montgomery dirty. Like Gibbs is just so good. You gotta give Gibbs all the goddamn carries, right? So like Montgomery's like, I want to say 29, 30 years old, something like that. An older back, not the most sexy option, I get it, but somebody who can run between the top tackles, somebody who can actually get downhill. He's a solid pass protector. He would save Detroit a lot of money if they were to cut him, but if not, like I would do something kind of like what the Texans did with Joe Mixon. They just trade a 7th rounder just to make sure nobody else gets him. And you can like rework their contract after the season or whatnot. I think we hired his former quarterback in college from Iowa State. I forget his name.
Mm-hmm.
We hired him as a certain coach. So maybe there's like a little connection there, It might literally mean nothing because, again, that dude also recruited Breece Hall, correct? Or something like that.
Yeah, was it? I don't think he. What is it? I don't think they crossed paths, but Lou Ayani was the Iowa State running back, obviously with David Montgomery.
That's what I was thinking of. Yeah, the quarterback is the one we hired, the former quarterback.
Yeah,
but the other one, Lou Ayani, that was the one who supposedly recruited Breece Hall. But
yeah, I don't know if he recruited him, but I do know that David Montgomery was the running back before.
Yes,
Breece Hall though. So yeah,
there's a small connection there, and like I'm gonna take it. I think they double dip on running back in free agency. Maybe they draft one in like the later rounds. Like I was a big of all the running backs that I watched so far, like the only one I think about taking like that high is Jadarian Price, obviously. But do you really want to draft a 1st round running back, 2nd round running back after drafting Harvey? I know they still have faith in Harvey. I know we've shown him a lot, but like he's a solid third down receiving back.
12 touchdowns is really hard to ignore.
Exactly, right? You gotta give him somewhat credit.
Yeah.
So I would say Montgomery and Dobbins. Those are my two.
Montgomery and Dobbins. A little bonus too on offense. Okay, such a cop.
Why not?
Jordan, what is the offensive prediction for the Broncos? And it cannot be the Broncos trade for Jalen Waddle.
All right.
I'll take that answer. I don't care.
But I would love for them to sign David Njoku just so I can have a Hurricane on the roster. That'd be awesome. But I mean, destiny arrives the same. They're going to sign someone like Taysom Hill at tight end, and we're all going to be like, what the hell? So, man, it's going to hit different when Taysom Hill is a Bronco.
That's going to be the first signing, too.
Yeah, it's man. But I honestly think they might push heavy for a running back in free agency. I can see someone like a Travis Etienne on the Broncos. I think there's a lot of smoke there. When there's smoke, there's fire. So I'm leaving it.
There's been some smoke recently with Etienne, and I guess Etienne is like the running back version of Wandale too, because it's like, what do you do with RJ? Because it's like, and I just say RJ more so from the passing game, because like RJ in the passing game is like a budding superstar when it comes to him as like a receiving threat, and then Etienne is like tailor-made. Alvin Kamara is on the free agent market, and his name is Travis Etienne, who just happens to be, hitting the market. How do you not say no if you're the Broncos to a guy like that? That's gonna be on that open market. It's just so that's one where he just seems like a seamless fit. I mean, obviously the other seamless fit is Breece Hall and a bunch of some of these others too. It's just I think for me it's one where I probably lean Travis Etienne. I just feel like, Etienne, there's something there. Because the one, it seems very likely. I don't know if it'll happen after we're done, if it'll happen when we wake up tomorrow morning, but it seems likely that Breece Hall will be getting transition tagged. Obviously, we know the transition tag is lesser than a normal tag. They can also trade him. So it's certainly possible there, but it's going to be hard to see them moving off of him, which I think is so stupid if they tag him. But so that's the other reason why I think Travis Etienne would be a decent option. I think the best bang for your buck option is between Tyler Algier and Rico Dowdle. Like those are your best like bang for your buck, option types of running backs. I will probably still say Travis Etienne though, because it's just they clearly want to value the running back position. And frankly, I actually will say I think between an Etienne and a J.K. Dobbins, because I'm convinced myself too, like I think they will re-sign J.K. But I think that they will probably be able to get an Etienne and a J.K. and an RJ. I think having those three, I think would be another version of a high ceiling room, and just even a high ceiling room, just from the standpoint of you actually have something with a running back that can be able to do it all in the passing game, receiving game, and then JK, who is darn near close 1,000 yards like Etienne, so like two of your backs that were, basically a 1,000 yard rusher almost. And then your third back ends up being a nice little change of pace receiver. To maybe get Tyler Toilet off your roster come week one and everything. But I don't know. It's really hard for me to ignore Travis Etienne when it comes to that. The pipe dream when it comes to tight end, because I like to break rules and I'll give a tight end, is Cade Otton. But it's really hard for me to ignore the smoke lately with David Njoku. Like there's been some smoke lately with David Njoku. So as far as defenses go, we'll start with you, Jordan. We'll go the other way. We'll go defense. What is the defensive prediction for you?
Man, I might stay in Jacksonville on this one. Again,
you and Mike Blitz.
Dude,
legit, huh?
I believe in the smoke. Like between last year with like Denver and Jacksonville have been interesting.
That'd be so funny though, by the way.
I mean, Denver and Jacksonville have been interested in the same players since last year, through the draft, through free agency, and it looks like it's going to happen again this year.
True.
It's already happening through free agency, and God knows when we're going to hear buzz about them being interested in the same player in the draft. So I'm going to go with Devin Lloyd, but we all know it's probably going to be Demario Davis because God help those same players. So
Like 2 years later, a year later, yeah.
yeah.
Jeez.
The funniest thing is actually okay. So if they don't re-sign Alex Singleton or Justin Surratt, I could actually see them bringing in Demario Davis as like this mentor.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind that at all.
You know, that almost would be the Singleton replacement.
Going to play 99% of the snaps.
He can't play any worse. He's 40 and he runs faster than him. But I don't know. I'll get rid of that.
Bryce,
I don't really know. I haven't really. We talked about it earlier. I would probably say Nakobe Dean. That's probably more just my favorite option. But after like what Luka Evans tweeted out saying that like he asked him, like Nakobe Dean's very aware of Denver, right? I think there's a scenario where I can see where it's him and Greenlaw, and I get people are gonna fucking lose their minds over 2 injury-prone linebackers in the same. But like the highs, like you talk about ceiling of a linebacker room, I don't think. And then on top of that, you can get a linebacker like CJ Allen at 20. Now we're talking Seahawks level, Texans level type defense, right? I would say a bonus pick. I saw it again. I think it was David Talk Sports who was mentioning it because we're losing JFM. I do strongly believe we aren't going to be able to afford to bring him back. You know, that's fine. Have him go get his money, right? They were talking about like Calais Campbell for a year as like a not really a rental, but just like he's from Colorado. It'd be cool for him to play for his state team. One last time. I get you kind of had like a retirement tour season with Arizona last year, but they were dog shit.
I was gonna say, you mean finally play for Denver, because there was that 1 year where he was supposed to sign with Denver, and then he spurned them and he decided to sign with Jacksonville. That idiot.
I mean, missed out, man. But he can right his wrong by getting. He doesn't have a ring, right? No, he can get his long beloved ring this season if he wanted to. I think that would be. He'd be super cheap. He's 38. Also, you were talking about Demario Davis, but like Calais Campbell, he would fit in just fine on the D line, in my opinion.
Bring him
Hurricanes.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to say anything outside of linebacker, to be honest. Like, I mean, are they really going to sign a defensive back given their depth right now? D-line was the only other spot you could, potentially consider just because of JFM. I don't think he's coming back, unfortunately. I hadn't thought about Demario Davis. It was a great camera just killed me, but Demario Davis, I think honestly would make a lot of sense. I don't know how I'd feel about Leo Chenal or Quay Walker, because you kind of want that mic, right? Chenal to me is more of kind of like what Greenlaw does, right? He's kind of the Will or the Sam. Those are two guys. Jesus, those are two guys.
By the way, thank you, Edge, because this is getting gift. By the way,
dude, the camera is like, yo, you don't bring up these guys because they're not signing them.
Take it from Jordan. This thing is getting gift.
The camera does not agree with you.
No, but yeah, outside of my camera killing me, I would probably say Leo Chenal.
Leo Chenal would be like your high ceiling, like Alex Singleton like high ceiling, like ceiling Singleton replacement.
Yeah,
Chenal was the one who blocked that field goal against us, huh?
Yeah, it was.
That would be ironic.
This is the Chenal prediction though for me. I think he's signing with the Bills. Just because Jim Leonard was his defensive coordinator with Wisconsin. Buffalo does need linebacker help. So I could see Chenal going to Buffalo. You good over there, Edge? You good over there?
No. This is a disaster class, bro. You guys are witnessing this firsthand.
You literally watched this camera die in 2 hours.
It's like,
literally just gave out.
I'm sick and tired of hearing y'all yap.
So I don't know. I'm agreeing with you guys. It is kind of hard to ignore the linebacker, position when it comes to and maybe it's just because it's also hard for me to predict like the big star or big stars when it comes to like the linebacker market and everything. And obviously it's one where it's, I don't know. The other part of it too for me is like it's also kind of hard for me to ignore the fact that I know Big Mike mentioned it in the chat with the linebacker or whatever, but it's really hard for me to ignore Caden Ellis right now. Just from the point of I think one that maybe people kind of forget last year, well, not forget, but like in the point that was last year was Zach Bond. Sean Payton drafted Zach Bond. Guess who drafted Caden Ellis? Sean Payton. 2009. It was a 7th round pick, but I mean, like it was 2019. Sean Payton drafted Caden Ellis when he was with the Saints, and obviously he went and signed with the Atlanta Falcons, and turned out to be one of the better linebackers, in the entire NFL, and he's a free agent. And obviously the Broncos, need a green dot player, and frankly, I would argue as far as maybe best players on the market who could probably afford you both comfortability in relatability to also the defense as well. That's not Demario Davis. Would probably end up being Caden Ellis. And so I think Caden Ellis would probably be the defensive one for me. So
they got to make a splash somewhere,
Like, the max would be 2, right? Like the max as far as like in terms of big signing would be 2.
I would say, well, I don't know. I felt like they kind of outdid it last year, right? They signed Hufanga. They get Greenlaw. Greenlaw was my number 1 target. I still can't believe they got him, but we got him, Hufanga. A lot of us were in on Ingram. I don't know if you would consider him like a big signing or something like that, but he was a starter. He became our starter instantly. Same with Dobbins. Dobbins was signed in June or something. Like he was running back 1 right away. Like I would count that as a big signing. So I don't know. Like they've proven that they're capable of it, and now they got a little money to play with and all that. It's like I don't know. I'm expecting the unexpected.
We like what we have.
Yeah, I know. Just for them to fucking roll with the same receiver room and fucking Mims gets 2 targets a game.
Yeah, we like what we have.
But then I won't be able to complain about it because we're the 1 seed and 1 game away from the Super Bowl. But
yeah, but no, it should be a fun off season. And, I think if there's one thing, Jordan, we even touched on it a couple episodes ago, and just in every tease, it's just like when it comes to this particular off season, it's just from the beginning of the Sean Payton era, every single off season has, for all intents and purposes, gotten better each and every year. And so now that we kind of reach the point of where things are from being, frankly, a broken ankle away from a Super Bowl, it's one where how aggressive will they be, and how aggressive will they be? And, are they aggressive enough where they fulfill every single possible need, which includes anything on offense and defense before, the draft, right? So I think that it would be one where it's going to be very interesting because we all know that teams all, for the most part, unless you're like the number 1 seed or the number 1 pick, if you will, maybe even the 2nd overall pick in the Jets, because clearly they tip their hand of who they're going to be taking at number 2. But it's just like, for all intents and purposes, the teams will be filling out their needs in the offseason and then going into the draft. So I'll be kind of curious to see what happens, but I'm sure Bryce has you covered over there at Mile High Mims and at Broncos Edge, for Edge over there. They're going to have you covered over there. Obviously, both Jordan and I are going to have you guys covered over here at the Mainly Broncos podcast. And make sure you follow Jordan at Jordan T. Lopez. Follow myself at Game Parker PO. And we're going to be doing a show next week. And, of course, make sure you hit the subscribe button for the MHRT Network page. And like I said, there's a join feature that is on that page. It's basically a membership. You guys can click whatever's available for you. We're not pressuring you in any way, shape, or form. Make sure you just, click whatever is content for you, and then hit the subscribe button to the Mainly Broncos YouTube page. And then until next time, which will be next week, go Broncos, and God bless Bo Nix.
Let's go Broncos! God bless Bo Nix!
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Tempo's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast racking up the flame out. So high, I might never come down.